We couldn't start without you, Greg.
No, never. So I think as people are still walking, I'll just start off and say good morning. You are all brave souls for showing up at 8:31, even earlier, because most of you guys were here before we got here. This session is how to...
Feel free to sneak out and grab coffee and then come back, too. We're cool with that.
Yeah. This session is how to hoax your coworkers into coming to an 8:30 session after a lullaby party the night before. Yes.
We're not actually going to talk. Just Colleen for an hour. We get to sit here.
Sorry. Start the 2-minute thing. So this is D7. Here we come. I'm told I need to leave the slide up for 2 minutes, so we're just going to...
It's been 2 minutes.
I think we're good.
Actually, no, it's only been 1. I have a timer on.
No, it was like 3 because we were waiting for Greg.
So actually, we're probably at 5. Okay, right.
Push next.
We are the Palantir family. So much so that we don't mind being crowded on a very small stage with 9 people. That's the best part. So we're here today to talk about the efforts that we're taking as a company.
Hey, Colleen, I think you want to talk into the mic.
Sorry, you're right. I need to talk into the knife. We're here today to talk about our efforts as a company and as a team to bring D7 out to the masses and actually to ourselves and our clients faster. We're very excited about it. We have lots of plans for it, and we're actively working in it right now. So before we actually get into the specifics of what we're doing for D7, I think we should tell you a little bit about ourselves. Before we go into each of the individuals, though, I would like to pass the mic to Tiffany and have her talk about Palantir.
So good morning, everyone. I'm Tiffany Ferris. I'm one of the owners of Palantir. And Palantir has been around for 14 years. We've been working in Drupal actively since 2007. We work with educational, cultural, not-for-profit clients primarily. We're remote data specialists. We do a lot of integration work with remote authentication, content management system, other collections management systems, course management systems, any kind of external data kind of stuff. That's what we really work on quite a bit. So,
thank you, Tiffany. So I'll start off and give you a little bit of background about myself. My name is Colleen Carroll. I've been working at Palantir for a little over 3 years now. Project lead and a themer. Your slides aren't working. There we go.
I'm still Tiffany Ferris. I'm still one of the owners of Palantir, and I do a lot of project strategy. So making sure that we understand what exactly use cases we need to solve for, and make sure that the solution that the team crafts actually fits the needs of that project.
So, and I'm George Demet. I'm the founder and the other co-owner of Palantir. So I do a little bit of everything around the office, everything from managing projects and working with the different teams internally, doing marketing stuff, and changing light bulbs.
Environmentally friendly light bulbs, though.
I'm Larry Garfield, or Krell. I'm a senior architect at Palantir.net. I've been there about 4.5 years. Also the Drupal 7 database maintainer. My job at Palantir is mostly to help devise technical solutions on projects and maintain our internal tool chain, which means my job is to annoy other people with my insistence on doing it in a standard way so they can yell at me about that. But it ends up working out okay in the end.
So I'm John Albin. I'm the maintainer of the Zen theme and contributed a boatload of D7 patches. So.
Ken.
So I'm Ken Rickard. I'm a team lead and architect. Do a lot of work with remote data. And if you want to talk about how to parse a 10-year-old HTML site flat file into Drupal, you can find me later. I'm also one of the 6 people in the world who understands the Drupal node access system, and I'll be talking about that tomorrow at this same time.
I'm Greg Dunlap. You may know me as Hayrocker, and from such modules as deploy and services and cracking bad jokes on IRC.
Hi, I'm Steve Fisher. I'm a UX designer at Palantir, so I take all these things and make them make sense to the users.
I'm going to stand up because Ken's so tall. I'm Robin Berry. I'm the newbie at Palantir. I've been here for just a couple months. I'm a team lead and senior engineer. I'm the one who talks to clients and listens to all of their ideas and turns it into Drupal magic.
And on that note, let's just kick it right off. Robin's going to take us into what we're so excited about with D7.
Okay, so we're going to go into more detail about several of the larger changes that are happening in Drupal 7. So I'm just going to list them quickly here, and then we'll have slides a little bit later that talk about them in more detail. So there's the field API, file handling, the database layer, and usability changes, and on top of that also some theming layer changes that we're really excited about and can't wait to see when Drupal 7 is stable and we can all take advantage of this. Some of the smaller changes that I'm also excited about include things like the Update Manager, which are going to allow you to securely install and update modules through the user interface. And some other security changes like protecting cron better and making the password system a little more pluggable so we can use different types of hashes for that. Some other changes that I think are interesting include the image handling and node access improvements, as well as some search engine optimization, which they're smaller changes, but they're good improvements all around the board.
So I'm not quite sure why opportunities is the label on this slide, but I was told I had to talk about the database layer here, and we haven't done sites to this point that really need to scale to super huge size, in part because doing so in Drupal 6 really does require modifying the core system, and when you do that, kittens die. But the Drupal 7 database layer was designed to scale a lot further, a lot more smoothly. Just drop in slave servers if you need to, and it just kind of works. So that helps us reach sites that previously we didn't want to have to deal with. Also, a lot of the new API changes were written with batch imports in mind. So doing large batch imports are now faster, easier, less code. And since we do a fair number of those, especially Ken, that should make life a lot easier there. The other really big thing for me is the field API. The current field API really goes back about 2 years. We hosted a, they're really happy about it. We hosted a data API design sprint at Palantir a little over 2 years ago, and that led to the architecture that eventually got implemented as fields in core. And one of the really, really big things there is pluggable storage backends for fields. As Tiffany mentioned, we do a lot of work integrating with third-party systems, not always third-party SQL databases, but museum collection systems. We're talking to systems over a SOAP connection or a REST connection or all kinds of weird things. And the fact that the field API in core, as well as being considerably cleaner and easier to work with than CCK and Drupal 6, lets us tie into a lot of these third-party systems in a much cleaner fashion. And having tied into different systems in a half dozen different ways, having a single common API for that just makes me really, really giddy. And I'd look more giddy if I had gotten more sleep.
Hi. So one of the coolest things that I think is coming in D7 from the developer's perspective is the file and image handling improvements that Andrew Morton and Nate Hogg added for Drupal 7. If you see either of those guys, you should give them great big hugs because they're going to make your lives a lot easier. The first part of which is image cache is now in core, and it's like 100 times better than it used to be. And it has like a new sample image that makes sense, and it's not just a Drupalcon and stuff that Nate drew on his phone. And so it's super cool. And but one of the coolest things from a developer perspective, and one of the things that's most exciting to me from a developer perspective about image cache in core, is that it's the first thing to introduce the views style exportable sort of paradigm into core, where you can export your image cache settings to a file and deploy them and ship with default image cache settings in code that you have to then override like you do in views. I think that introducing that into core is really important, and as Dries was talking about yesterday, configuration management and deployment is going to be a really big deal for Drupal 8, and so hopefully we'll be able to build on that a lot more going forward. And from the filing handling standpoint, one of the coolest and most exciting things for me was not only was all of the file handling and file field and all of that brought over from Contrib to Core, but also the introduction of the use of stream wrappers, which if you're not a developer won't make much sense, but if you are a developer, it's really cool. Basically, it allows you to write an abstraction layer over different types of file storage. So for instance, in Drupal 7, you've got the private and public file systems like you did in Drupal 6, but if you want to pull files out of them, all you have to do is do like a file open, private : / and the name of and the path to the file, and you're done. And you don't have to remember where the files are located or what path they're in, or that they changed when you went from dead to live and stuff like this, and it's super great. But the other really cool thing about that is that you can write your own stream wrappers. And so for instance, as an example recently to learn about this, I wrote a stream wrapper for TwitPic, that Twitter storage engine. And so you can pull images out of TwitPic using it by going twitpic : / and the ID of the photo that you want, and it just sucks. And then I had to write a little interface to get the data from TwitPic's API. But other than that, it was a very simple way to implement remote file storage, and because it has all of the classes allow you to not only retrieve data but put data, we're going to see I think a lot of more multimedia integration and remote service integration because of this, both for retrieving and saving images at places like Flickr and YouTube and other popular places that right now we have a lot of custom modules that are all they work differently and stuff, and this is going to standardize a lot of that. It's one of those things that you don't really realize how cool it is until it's there and people start using it, and I think it's going to be really exciting.
That was a mouthful.
Sorry.
I'm
if I had gotten more sleep last night, I would have had more time to think about that I was rambling.
It's not my fault.
He's just that excited.
I am that excited. It's really cool.
Who's next?
You.
Oh. Infrastructure. So in Drupal 6, we've been maintaining our own in-house build system, essentially. And originally it was some standalone PHP scripts that I put together, and then reported that to Drush 2. And it works pretty well, but Drupal 7 and Drush 3 combined are going to make this a lot easier as well. You can now install Drupal from the command line, which means I'll be able to wrap it up into just a single command line statement that downloads Drupal, downloads the standard modules that we always run, sets up the database, sets up our symlinks, installs Drupal, sets the admin password, commits stuff into Subversion, and all that kind of fun stuff. Which is currently about a 4-step process, but we can drop it down to 1. And that'll mean less time that these guys spend bugging me about setting up new projects, which is good for me. The other big thing, this isn't as much Drupal 7 itself, is Palantir's been a Subversion shop for as long as I've been there. We've always been using Subversion for our version control. And I've had people bugging me on a regular basis. Can we use Git? Can we use Bazaar? Can we use something other than Subversion? And I've always said, no, it's way too much work when we don't know what Drupal.org is doing. We now know what Drupal.org is doing. Drupal.org is going to Git, and so are we. So I've been talking to Git people for a while now, and we're still in planning stages for that. But that's going to really help our workflow and get people to stop bothering me about our version control system. So thank you, WebChick. You're making my life easier.
I was just going to say that, well, Larry said it already. if anybody who is happy about Drupal getting off of CVS needs to go and give WebChick the biggest hug in the world, because she really pulled that together, and it was awesome, because it's been trying to happen for years and years and years, and she really put that together in an astoundingly short amount of time, so she kicks ass. Are they going to have to bleep that?
I don't know. But yeah, the test bot didn't work for a week, and in that week, because she was bored, because she couldn't commit anything, Angie decided to solve the VCS problem and get us moving to Git. So the woman is amazing.
Hear, hear.
Who's next?
I get to go. And I should point out that the person doing the most harassing about Git is Matt Farina, who's one of our rock star themers slash, hey, Matt, can you solve this problem in the next 6 hours, please? But Matt's home in Michigan waiting for his wife to have a baby. Did we hear about that yet? No baby yet. Okay, there's no baby. But so Matt is really pushing us towards Git and some other really great stuff. So I mean, Larry's been talking about. I think everybody's been talking about what's getting the developers jazzed up, which is great and all. I'm excited about some of the exportable stuff. I'm actually really excited about some of the changes we're seeing in D7 that some of us have been working on for years. I got to see a couple of patches that I wrote in my modules in D5 that are now in core, which is a really nice, warm feeling. It's a lot of fun. Aside from that, really, I think what we've been able to do, and we had a big, huge dinner meeting about last night, was, we've been doing this long enough that we finally understand what all of the problems our clients are trying to solve happen to be. And particularly, we're talking about this in an editorial workflow state. And we're actually going to be running around the con the next 2 days, harassing different module maintainers to talk about them. Because historically, we end up having to build, you have to build a system that meets all the requirements of your client. And you might have to use 8 or 9 separate modules that have different terminology, they have different user interfaces, they have different levels of documentation and code quality. And we're geared up now to really fix that. And actually, we want to fix it. The battle plan for Drupal 7 is to fix it in such a way that it can be submitted as a D8 core patch when we're done with it. So that you can just go in and say, look, these are the 12 fundamental, super duper enterprise level editorial features that everyone wants. I'll give you a simple example. And right now we do this with a custom action. Hey, at my university, most data entry, most pages are created by interns. We don't trust our interns. So when the intern creates a new page, automatically mark it as unpublished. Don't ever allow them to publish anything, and fire off a note to their manager saying, hey, can you go and review this? Nice, simple little thing, but there's no actual module for it. Which is really kind of strange. And even if there were a module for it, it might not play nice with these 6 other modules we need currently to do what we want. So I'm really kind of excited about that, especially being able to put the configurations for that in code. And then aside from that, the sort of node access changes, and I'll be talking about that very, very in great detail tomorrow morning. And just there's lots of little things. If you haven't been diving into D7 development yet, it's actually a lot of fun. I wrote a couple of really small modules that are really, it's really simple. And I should point out, I don't think we said, we're actually building 3 sites in D7 right now. So we're like eating the dog food, and it tastes pretty good. So we're having a good time with that.
That was really funny. Yeah, but like Ken said, we're actually really trying to solve this sort of editorial client workflow issue right now as we speak. So I think it's up to Ken, or to John.
So I'm really excited about the theme layer, and I'm going to have a session where I blather on for like a whole hour just about this, and that's at 3 o'clock or something like that later today. So if you want to know more, definitely go to that. But one of the things that's great for us at Palantir is that, I mean, we're sort of superheroes, themers here. So we're quite good at doing crazy things in the D6 theme system. But with the D7, things become a heck of a lot easier, and we can sort of explode our page layouts in ways that are not possible. And what I mean by exploding this is, like, normally you have your node right in the middle of the page, and all of its fields are right there. And if you want to stick like the picture of the author over there because your designers doesn't think the way Drupal does, gosh. You can do that in D7 quite easily now. There's a hook page alter that it gives you basically a giant render element array of the whole page with sort of your node in the middle and your blocks and regions everywhere. And you can just go in and say, okay, I want to grab that field out of the node and put it over in that region. And you're done. Like, it's like 4 lines of code, and it makes things super easy. And in D6 we could do some of this, but we can do just a lot more of this in D7. So that's one of the things that I'm super excited about. Another thing that I'm excited about.
I just wanted to make a comment about that.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Why John's really excited is in D6 he had to ask me to do that stuff, and in D7 he's just going to go do it. He's just going to like. So.
This is true. Yeah, yeah. The less work I make Ken do, the happier he is. So improves our it improves our relationship. Another thing that is really exciting about these render elements is that it allows you to sort of grab at all of the different pieces of your page and change the way it's styled by default. So in Drupal, and this is the way it's been for a while now, is the modules, because they're the ones who are creating the data, they're responsible for providing the default theming and styling for that piece of data, right? And the themes can change it if they want to, but with the render element, you can radically change the way these things are themed, because before we were sort of limited to sort of minor changes, and now we can just go crazy crazy batshit basically on this data and change the render elements around completely. And one of the things, here's a really good example of this, is in D6 when you create a menu, for example, a menu tree, which shows all of your navigation for a particular menu. From a themer standpoint, you just sort of were given this giant string, which was a whole bunch of nested UL elements, and you couldn't do anything except style it. You couldn't modify, and change around how the actual list is rendered. And in D7, we've actually done this on a site. We've built a prototype, and we're working on a UX for creating a backend of a mega menu system. So if you guys how many people are familiar with mega menus? They're a relatively new concept in web development. Basically, you have your horizontal navigation across the top, and you hover over it, and instead of just sort of a simple list of the child links, you have like a giant sort of block of like columns of links, and maybe like the search box there, or like related content and taxonomy is listed there. It's a big usability improvement, because people have a hard time, navigating some of these more traditional drop downs, and the mega menus allow a lot more rich interaction and rich what am I looking for? A sort of rich navigation of the site. Yeah.
Hot.
It's like chocolate. So with D7, because it's a render element, we can go in and say, okay, I've got this menu tree, and it's just a simple list of menu items, but I'm going to go in and split this particular sub list into like 3 columns, and I'm going to stick the search blocks in there. And you can just go and do that and then say, okay, I'm done messing with this thing, and now go render it exactly the way I want it. And this is just simply not possible at all in D6 without just basically coding it by hand, which is just a big pain in the butt. So that's one of the things we're super, super excited, especially me, if you can't tell. Yeah.
Again, this is why we're sort of excited about developing in D7. So Steve and John and I were talking about this, and I'm pretty confident I can deliver this to him in 2 days. I could probably write most of it this afternoon. I'm talking about the back-end management system, because it's just not that hard anymore, and that is why we're all pretty pumped.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's basically all I had to say, except for now. Again, a whole hour of this later. With slides.
in case you need to say more, John, I left your bird up on this one. I'm Steve. I work on UX and design stuff, and I remember some of the early conversations I had with Larry Krell here, and just when he would be talking to me, and I would sort of hear, I don't know if you've seen the Far Side cartoon where it's like blah, 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 node, blah, 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 node. And he could probably see the glazed look come over my face, and he's like, oh, I need to explain this in a different way. Well, what I'm excited about in Drupal 7 is that it helps with that for the user's perspective. The admin interface is different. It's better. It's simpler. There's a lot of complexity in Drupal itself, but a lot of that is taken into the system now, and the user doesn't have to deal with as much of it. So that's just fantastic, you know, because I spend most of my time trying to think of how will our clients, how will the site users interact with this admin interface. How is their workflow going to be improved? So even when Ken was talking about some of the workflow stuff, well, when we come to all these different modules and all that, you know, naming conventions, things like that, a lot of that has been improved from my perspective in Drupal 7. And that's exciting for me. I can see that it's really exciting for all of you. But one thing we're going to do with that, though, is be creating a sub-theme for our clients, for projects that we work on, that helps make some of these things go a little smoother. And then again, that's just going to be easier for us to do using Drupal 7 because of some of the improvements that have been made overall. But the mega menu thing is something that I'm actually really excited about. Yes, I'm Canadian. Okay, that was funnier for me than anyone else in the room, I guess. But it really is like I don't like drop-down menus. I would avoid them like the plague if I could, you know. But the fact that we could do this mega menu system so easily and get to implement it or so much easier, it just improves the usability overall of the sites. But also because we can create this admin interface for it, it improves the usability and the experience for the people doing the admin for the site. So I'm very excited about all these improvements, and I'm thrilled with what the D7 UX project did.
You know, and I just want to add a little bit. I've had the perspective from being kind of that content editor person. You know, so we have a site that we're working on where basically I've just been a content editor, adding, entering, editing content. And compared to the experience in Drupal 6, I mean, I look at it and it's the same things. It's, you know, from one perspective, it's not that different. On the other hand, I feel a lot better when I'm using it. It just seems like things are in the right place. It seems friendlier. It's, you know, it makes me feel kind of warm and fuzzy, you know.
I would like to sort of add on that. You know, when we talk about doing maybe a sub-theme of 7, which is the theme that's installed by default in Drupal 7, we're talking about the node edit forms. Things are so much better, but when you start to really structure your content for your client, you end up, or you can have the potential of ending up with 10, 20, 30 fields on a node edit form. And there's no good way to design a default solution for that. And that's something that we really at Palantir want to focus on. There's got to be a way for us to optimize this a little bit better for our clients. And so that's what we're, you know, 7 got us most of the way there, and we can extend it, hopefully.
Yeah, last thing I'll say is, and it just ties in with what George and Colleen were saying, I believe the good UX, when it happens, you just kind of look at it and you're not exactly sure what's different anymore, but you know that it feels better, it makes a little more sense to you, and that's what I see happening in Drupal 7.
So if Tiff doesn't mind, I'll kick this off and then hand off to you. So at Palantir, we're sort of known for our sustainable approach to building Drupal sites. And for me, and I think for Tiff, for all of us up here, the important thing about support is that our clients are able, or they're empowered to be able to change and extend their sites themselves, that they don't have to rely on us to make all of the little changes to bring their site to the next level. So as we're approaching D7, that's exactly what we're thinking about. How can we prepare right from the beginning, a site that our client can be empowered by, that they can say, oh, I really don't like where that field is. I want to move it over here. I don't like that little theme element, or maybe I need to tweak the sorting of this. We try to expose as many things from the back end up to our clients so that they can make those changes themselves. I could go on for that for hours, but I won't. So the other big part here, the other sort of major client for us is actually the Drupal community. We see this as our opportunity to really help D7 come further. Because we are actually using it right now, we're finding bugs, we're reporting bugs, we're
Making patches,
fixing our own modules, writing new ones. So it's busy, it's difficult, it's risky, but it's what we do best.
Yeah, I mean, I think from my perspective, right, in terms of jumping into Drupal 7, after the experience that we had with the upgrade to Drupal 6, right, I mean, I thought we were going to be deploying sites in Drupal 6 in 2008, and it turned out we didn't deploy our first Drupal 6 site until early 2009. We were working in Drupal 6 in 08, but, it just took a long time for it to get there. And, and this is our way of saying, by jumping in so early, by getting really involved, clearly Drupal 7 doesn't have some of the challenges Drupal 6 did have with, becoming production ready. But by putting all of our resources into it, we're helping to push the community. We're helping to get it there. And I think that's something that was really important. And I think that flows right into the next slide, which is the other part of my job, right, is how the hell did I convince clients to go with Drupal 7, right? Because as they've said, we are primarily working in Drupal 7 right now. And as I mentioned when I kicked off the session, Palantir primarily works with universities. We work with museums. We love those spaces. And there are so many compelling advantages to Drupal 7, which everybody's talked about, so far. The theme layer, the database layer, the new admin interface, all of those things are really compelling, and they do there's a business case for those, right? That we feel on our clients' behalf when they go to roll out distributed content maintenance responsibilities, that the advantages and the ease of rollout is going to be significantly improved, right? The adoption rate, the success of training, and the ability to get those non-technical users to be successful with their tasks in Drupal. We think that's going to be easier, right? But the other thing about our particular client profile is that the types of sites we build are major capital expenditures for them. And at the point that Drupal 7 is right now, it's ready enough that we can start building in it. So that if you have any sites that are going to launch certainly in the fourth quarter this year, and some even into the third quarter, we feel that Drupal 7 is the right choice. Because launching into Drupal 6 right now and building a site means that it's only going to be supported by the community maybe 2.5 years. That is not adequate for our clients to justify the capital expenditure and the level of effort that they're going to spend not only in working with us to develop the sites, right, but then roll it out, train everybody, and then support it themselves to say, oh, 2 years from now, you're going to go through that whole process again. Our clients just don't do that. I mean, that doesn't happen. We're working with a client right now who shall remain nameless, who hasn't done this for 10 years, right? And so the concept of 2 years, that doesn't exist in that world, right? They're still going to be rolling out the stuff that we are doing for them right now 2 years from now. They're still going to be pulling more content and pulling more sites in. So you have to kind of take the long view. And, so it certainly is not without some risk. But I feel like when you get involved with Drupal, it is an open source project, and it is a give and get relationship, right? Sometimes you stand on the shoulders of giants, and sometimes you have to be the giant that people stand on. And by kind of jumping into Drupal 7 right now as a company, what Palantir is saying is that we're going to be out there. A ton of people have already done a ton of great work. We're here to push it forward, make it polished, make it production ready, so that we are deploying sites in Drupal 7 this year. Right, so the craziness of like Examiner aside, you can use Drupal 7 right now. We're going to be launching a Drupal 7 site in the closing session tomorrow. So that's the site George was talking about. Yay, DrupalCon Chicago. So, we're going to be, you can work in it. Yeah, shh, it's a secret. So you can work in it right now. It certainly does have some frustrations, right? Installing new modules and stuff is a little bit,
It's way more stable than D6 was originally.
Oh my gosh, it is so much better than D6, and that's why I feel comfortable making the business case to our clients that this is the right choice for them, given the level of investment that they're making in these new sites.
So note on that, Tiff was talking about standing on the shoulders of giants. Jeff Eaton, who most of you know, once described Drupal as standing on a large pile of midgets.
Aww.
There are 9 midgets up here on this stage, and there are lots of people we're standing on, and there's lots of people who are going to be standing on us, and hopefully you can all be joining that huge midget pile in the coming days.
We need 113 patches.
Yeah, there's 113 patches, that's true. No, I mean, I'll give you a quick example. We talked about mega menus a little bit, and I'm going to relate that to some work we did in Drupal 6 that hopefully you're familiar with. And this is what we talk about when we discuss community engagement and sort of sustainable builds. How many of you use views? How many of you use views render token replacement? i.e., no, don't link this to the node. Link this instead to this arbitrary path where you have the brackety stuff. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I wrote that patch for a client. Okay, so I wrote that patch for a client essentially because I got tired of having John have to hack together URL links in the theme layer. And
We
said,
get along, really.
I mean, we could show you. There's a great site we've got that has the most complicated interconnected views. It's like 8 different views all linking to each other, and the themers had to touch it once because there's a weird layout CSS issue. But everything else is just straight through the views UI. Yeah, so I'm going to take that same token-based render concept and apply it to menu items. Right? Right? Okay, so you'll be able to say, hey, just render this menu item normally, or you're going to be able to say, hey, render menu title, or render menu parent name, then put in like a div, and then render menu title as a link, and then put in another div, and then put in the search block. I'm going to take, my basic strategy is to take, expose all system blocks as tokens to your menu item. So you can say, hey, instead of rendering this menu item as a link, render the link and then the search box. Oh, and by the way, wrap it in this div class. So, and that's going to get released, right? I mean, you're going to have that, I would think, within the next 6 weeks. It's going to be available, but only for Drupal 7. I am not going to backport that thing. So this is again, but this is the stuff that gets us really pumped, I think.
Ken, can you talk about domain access too? Just
Should I talk about domain? Okay, so domain access. We're doing a domain access BOF at 11 o'clock this morning in one of the BOF rooms. I don't remember which one. Domain access. Anyone using it, by the way? 6 people. Domain access is one of those modules that will change your life. I talked to somebody yesterday who's running 2,500 concurrent websites, sharing content across them. Usually he does it in bundles of 30 off of one Drupal installation using domain access. A lot of fun stuff there. And that's like a 9-module suite, and I was able to port it to Drupal 7 in like 2 weeks, thanks to some of the work that we've done. What else am I supposed to say?
I didn't get any bugs. I installed it and there was no bugs. Well,
there are a couple of bugs, but those bugs are actually D6 bugs we just found. So, but yeah, I should explain what domain access does. Domain access. Okay, this is the quick elevator version of domain access. It's a content. It's a node access module, so it lets you segregate content contextually. But instead of using the sort of model that Organic Groups uses, which says, hey, are you a member of this group? You can see this data. It actually reads the inbound HTTP host and uses that to segregate content so that you can say, well, here's a great example. If we had chosen to, as a community, you could run all the Drupalcon websites off of one single installation and just, the schedule stuff. You wouldn't have to rewrite the sites every year. You could just, hey, now we're going to add the Chicago to the Drupalcon stack and automatically get all the same features and functionality instantly. That's what it does. And it lets you, it's a system for affiliating and syndicating content across a network of sites in a very, very easy manner.
Thanks, Ken.
And it's like, we're doing 3 sites right now in D7, and 2 of them use domain access.
We've been starting to, I mean, we used to use multi-site, but there's inherent problems with it, and especially from a client perspective. You know, if you have 40 different sites in a multi-site, that's 40 different module pages you have to check buttons on. And
We do have one of those, actually, that we
Well,
handed off to a client recently.
it's unnecessary overflow, and I think and actually this is before we even kind of came to our team, and we've been using domain access since. It's, for me, I mean, I know Ken always tells me, don't install domain access unless the client needs to share content. And then I say, or I go like this, and I say, but Ken, I can switch the theme really easily, because there's this really wonderful feature where, you know, I have these different domains, and you can actually attach a different look and feel, a different theme in your site's default themes directory to each of those domains, and that's huge. And we've used that a bunch of different times. We've used it for sites that just have, it's still sort of the same site, but they have slightly different look and feels, and they did have different URLs that they wanted to have you hop into, and it handles it well. Not many modules can do that. So. What? Does anybody have anything else?
We can do Q&A. I can talk
Yes,
about the
we
other
would like to
D7.
do-
I can talk about the other D7 modules I've already developed.
I think we'd like to open up for questions.
So we have 2 of the top 20 Drupal 7 contributors on stage, and one of the 5 people who understands the node access system. We're yours for the next 25 minutes.
And one of the people who understand, one of 6 people we discovered on Saturday that understands the theme system as well.
And the guy who maintains remote services, too. So.
Right, that's right. All right, brown shirt.
Top 5 changes out of 150? The top 5 changes out of 150? Oh boy.
Well, I was going to actually ask, and what is that person's job title?
Yeah.
This is Robin's list.
Oh, well, then let Robin read Robin's
list. Well, thank you. So this is we're kind of coming back full circle here. So this was the top list that I quickly talked about, and then everyone else went into more detail. So the top 5 are field API, file handling, database layer, usability, and the theming layer changes.
You know, but I think going to Ken's point about what's your job title, right? I mean, that's at a very high level, right? Those are top 5 big things that have changed. You know, really the question is going to be, you know, who are you? What is your use case? What do you need to do with your site? You know, and then we can, you know, drill down into a little bit more detail about, okay, what does the switch from Drupal 6 to Drupal 7, or the advantages of Drupal 7 over Drupal 6, what does that mean for you in particular? Because the answer is different for almost everyone.
So the way that I sell it, right, because that's my job, is just absolutely the content maintenance interface. Any of the as Dave said, right, the changes to image API and the file handling. If you're doing any media, if you are doing any video, if you are doing any massive image handling, it is so much better. It is so much different. You know, and then those 2 are really compelling, and then changes to the database, right? To make it easier, we deal, as I said, with a lot of remote data. So the fact that that's going to be there, that's another major change. And all of those things suggest you need to kind of move forward. Those are the 3 biggest things that I talk about.
You know, and I just keep thinking is, you know, we also talk about, you know, security. You know, and it's security, not just the fact that Drupal 7 has improved security and support for improved security algorithms, but it's improved security in that Drupal 7 will have security updates and patches supported for it for a much longer amount of time.
And I was going to say, yeah, and the first time you do a batch insert statement, you'll just want to kiss Larry.
We're developers, so we haven't really talked about this much because it doesn't really bother us, but I think it's going to be huge having a GUI update manager and module installer in core for Drupal 7. Oh my God, that's going to be so awesome for so many people. It's the kind of thing that we don't think about because we just use Drush all the time and whatever. But I mean, for normal end users who just are trying to install their Drupal site, that is one of the biggest hurdles to getting modules installed and working. And so I think that's going to be a really amazing change that will help speed adoption in a huge way.
Yeah, and from a developer perspective, I'd probably add simple test to that list. Not only is that made possible to go a lot farther, a lot faster with Drupal 7 itself, it's now there and available for every contrib module to use. There's work happening on using it for unit testing site functionality. There's work to make Drupal more friendly towards unit tests. I mean, that if used properly, that can just make the process of developing new functionality so much faster, so much cleaner, so much easier. And you don't see that kind of thing when the site launches, except when it breaks less often. And that's kind of the end goal there as well. Probably should go to another question now.
Yeah, right here, right in front. Can you repeat
that's a
the
good
question before?
So what I would say is pre-process. Oh, yeah. So the question was, when would you use hook page alter and when would you use pre-process page? Pre-process page is actually going to give you access to a lot of the same variables, actually. And if you're more comfortable with pre-process functions because you've been using them in D6 and you are able to do what you want to do in a pre-process function, there's no reason why you can't continue to use pre-process functions. We're still going to use pre-process functions for a lot of that stuff too. Hook page alter allows you to do stuff that's more difficult at the pre-process level, and like I said, moving stuff from inside a node over to a different region conceptually becomes a lot easier at the hook page alter level. So moving things around is what I would use hook page alter for, and sort of altering the actual markup for something I would probably do in a pre-process function.
Behind. Oh, yeah, you. Sorry.
Does anybody want to talk about sort of CCK is like the big thing?
I haven't looked at the guts. The unit interface.
Yeah. Oh, so the question was, what about upgrade paths from D6 to D7?
So I have not upgraded a D6 site to D7 yet. That type of upgrade is always bumpy. I expect this to be bumpy here as well, but doable. As far as CCK goes, Joachim is actually maintaining a module that is intended to be a CCK migration tool for doing that kind of upgrade. I haven't looked at it yet, but I like him. He does good work, so that's probably going to be the way to go for that. Yeah, that's not part of core, but that will be a contrib module intended specifically for migrating CCK in Drupal 6 to an equivalent field module. The APIs for things like formatters, Ken said by custom formatters. The APIs for fields in core are notably different than CCK in Drupal 6. Formatters are actually more like they were in Drupal 5 to an extent. I believe there is a session on CCK on fields in core. Is that today or tomorrow?
I like how you guys are looking at me like I know the schedule by heart.
I believe Karen Stevenson is talking about fields in core at some point during this conference. But I will say, having worked with CCK in Drupal 5, in Drupal 6, and now fields in core in Drupal 7, it is a lot better in Drupal 7. There's still parts of it I don't like from an API perspective, but it is a lot easier to work with than it used to be.
Let's take another question.
One last thing is that when upgrading your code, there is an upgrade guide for both modules and for themes available on Drupal.org.
Red shirt in the back.
Sorry. Yeah, there's a CCK to Fields 415 today in room 308.
Go ahead.
Not in core, no. The question was in regards to node access, is there a simple permission to restrict the view operation by content type? And the answer is no, and the quick answer to that is because there are two types of view operations. There are individual node view operations, which are easy to handle, and there are list view operations, which are complicated to handle because they essentially require database joins and the node access system. A module like that, I'm actually shocked, does not exist. And does it exist?
Yeah, I started working on one a while back. Didn't have time to finish it. I think Angie Byron is actually working on one. So view permissions for the actual node page itself are now possible. It's just a matter of someone finishing their work on that. List operations are, as Ken said, still require dealing with the database, and if you can figure out a way around that, then you're smarter than about a dozen other people who have been broken their heads on it.
Actually, that's not true. Now that I think about it, you've got three, and we can talk about this tomorrow in my session at 8:30 tomorrow morning in room 304. You actually have three options. If you want to restrict just the view of an individual node page, you can use Larry's new core patch, hook node access. Hook node access replaces. You remember hook access in Drupal 6 and lower? You had to be the module that owned the node type in order to assert any rules. That's no longer the case. Any module can now declare access control rules on create, view, update, and delete for any node in the system based on any logic you want. But that will not help you for things like show me the list of all the most recent nodes on the home page. You have two choices. Write a node access module or use Larry's other patch, hook query alter, and look for queries that are flagged with the node access tag and do a join there directly. You could write that module. This is why Drupal 7 rocks. We can go write this module in 6 lines of code in 10 minutes.
That's actually what the node access system uses in Drupal 7 is hook query alter. So important security note, if in Drupal 6 you're using DB rewrite SQL and the insanity of that, in Drupal 7 you want to use a dynamic query and just flag that node access, and it's a lot more robust, a lot more flexible, breaks less often, is more secure. And for more information on that, I'm doing my third and final round of the database, the next generation talk tomorrow at I think also 4:15.
And I'll save people the time. If you don't really care about the internals of the node access system, that is the one warning that I have for every Drupal module developer. If you do not flag your node queries with the node access tag, you are committing a security violation, and we will find you. But if you're never going to implement complex business logic, you don't have to go to my session now, because that's the one thing you have to know.
Next.
In front. Do you want to repeat that
So
question?
the question is, when would you go about doing an upgrade from 6 to 7?
Well, I can tell you from our advice actually to our clients is generally, unless there's a compelling feature that really helps you, we have the odd even rule. If you're odd, stay odd. If you're even, stay even, and go 2 versions. But that's because of the client profile that I mentioned that we work with. So we generally don't do single version upgrades.
That said, if you actually do need to for some reason, you should be starting right now by looking at the modules you have, figuring out which ones don't have D7 versions yet, and going to help make D7 versions of those. The sooner all of your contrib modules are up to D7, the sooner you can move your site.
I think it's important to say, too, that to help someone bring their module up to D7 doesn't necessarily mean writing code. It also means, looking through the issue queue, seeing if you can help answer questions, report bugs, that type of thing.
Making sure it doesn't break when it gets installed. One of the other changes we put in, make you module developers really happy. when you have a module that has database tables, you no longer have to declare the installation or uninstallation of those tables in your .install file. The problem is if you port your code up and forget to remove those statements, you will crash the database pretty much unrecoverably until you go in and manually clear the cache tables. It's in the well-documented API changes from 6 to 7. It's a really nice developer experience trick. Hey, I no longer have to worry about installing my tables in code because it just happens for you. Thank you, I wrote that patch too. But I goofed on that on one of my modules, and John went, "What the heck just happened?" And I went, "Oops."
Yeah. The bigger point here is if you are playing around with Drupal 7, on something that might be production at some point, back up, back off, and very often. Yeah.
Almost literally, I would say take a snapshot before you install anything. Yeah. There was one question back there somewhere.
How will video be better? Well, this comes along with the file handling in general and the stream wrappers that Greg Dunlap talked about. And I think also what you want to check out is the media module. So that's providing a much nicer user interface for providing either uploaded video or accessing URLs where videos are located, YouTube, that sort of thing. So I think there's a lot of features that really improve the usability and just kind of simplify things for end users.
One last question in the back blue shirt.
Yeah, so the question was, the gentleman in the back has been working on the mega menu problem in D6, and I think he was doing most of it in the theme layer, and he's wondering where, yes? Well, in Drupal 7, would we do it mostly in the theme layer or in the module layer? What we're planning right now is to use a module to expose additional settings for every menu item that can then contextually be applied probably using menu block. So when you create a new menu block, which is the sort of best way to do dynamic navigation menus, thanks, John. Menu block module will change your life. You can just declare, hey, when rendering this menu block, use the mega menu render replacement. And then we'll either use a theme preprocess function or hook page alter, probably a theme preprocess function. Or just override the theme using hook theme alter to change the way that menu item gets rendered contextually. So it's a combination. It will all be controlled in a single module. What you're probably, we talked about this at some length. You're probably still going to have to write some CSS, and I'll give you the sort of flexibility that semantic views gives you to sort of create like CSS div wrappers and things. It's, I think, unlikely you're going to get a UI for creating columns outside the existing menu interface.
It sounds like it's worth it to maybe wait, see if what we build and contribute back can also work for you in D7.
Is that it?
Yeah, I'd actually like to just say that we have to sort of cut the session off. We have a booth out here, a Palantir booth, and all of us are sort of sitting there at certain points of the day. Please come and talk to us, ask us more questions, because when we have these conversations, it sort of triggers more things that we can do, and that's what you probably want.
Enjoy Drupal 7. Give WebChick a hug.
Yeah. Thank you very much.